Welcome back to the 2024 Candidate Forum, being simulcast on News Talk Radio, KRMS, KRMS TV 32, streaming on KRMSradio.com, KRMSTV32.com, and KRMS Facebook page. Now we're going to speak to our candidates for governor. That's Chris Wright and Amber Thompson. We're going to take an opening 2-minute statement. We will start with you, Chris Wright.
First thing I would like to do, if you are a current or former veteran, first responder, or teacher, can you please stand and be recognized? You know, it's these people that really make the world turn, and I just love people who serve other people. My background, 24-year combat veteran with the Army, got 9 years in law enforcement, 17 years as a small business owner. I'm from Joplin, Missouri. I own a construction company. And here's the thing, you know, during campaign season, you hear a lot of campaign candy, promises. In my particular race, I'm going to make one promise to you. I'm going to work with the legislative body in a proactive manner and not a reactive manner, because a lot of what you hear out there, the governor can't do whatever he or she wants to do all the time. Almost everything is done through the legislative body, and that's what's really important on what you have to know within this race and the powers of the governor. So, like I said, I'm going to work with the legislative body in a proactive manner. Some of the things that I want to work with, if it's outside of my powers, is reducing crime, going after the utility companies. If you're on Ameren in this room, you know exactly what I'm talking about. The criminal utility rates that they have after us. Supporting teachers, and I'm not talking about pay raises, I'm talking about overhauling DESE, the Department of Elementary Secondary Education. Teachers want to be teachers. They don't need the federal government telling them what they have to do. Budget reduction. Our budget's a big old fat happy budget. It's not a conservative budget. And the last thing I want to talk about working as the governor is single subject bills only. We have a lot of good legislators trying to do a lot of good things. We also have a lot of bad legislators trying to add things to these bills. Our Constitution says single subject bills only. Well, perfect timing.
Thank you, sir. 2-minute opening statement. Amber Thompson.
My name again is Amber Thompson, and you can remember my name because of the Amber Alert that started years ago, Amber Alert 911. It has ruined my life, among other things, but I've become a victim multiple times to the family court system, and we have family court judges in the room, and I would like to give some advice on that later if I get a chance to help, again, bring America back. We have such a cultural seed that needs planted of a true family and God-fearing nation. We have so many people who are being destroyed by violent media, violent culture infliction, allowing policemen to kill individuals. We have literally been a stance against true patriotic freedom, and we've allowed elitists to take over our wallets, okay, and allowed franchises to run us down. And as you mentioned, I'll back that up. Ameren, I can quote this for sure, you can research it. They even charged me $200-something the month that I wasn't even in the state of Illinois, okay, electric company. So I can agree with that, and there is no way to get a lawsuit. So I started Trifecta amendment, passed Amendment 20, there's 27 amendments, Amendment 28, end room rape. This is just a nutshell when I started years ago running for office. Amendment 29, police don't cross the line, to end police harassment. Amendment 30, let the private courts go. We need to have open an ability to have a lawsuit and a civil lawsuit. I would like to replace family law attorneys with civil defense attorneys and medical attorneys, because every single person in this room about, if I worked in the rehabilitation and education, will be a victim to the nursing home or some form of Medicare fraud. And it's very critical, so I'd like to tell you more about that later.
All right, on to the questions. Each candidate will have 1 minute to respond, and we'll start with Chris Wright. To borrow from our unofficial state nickname, can you show me an example from your achievement and experiences that have prepared you to lead our state from Jefferson City?
So my military background is very extensive with troop leading procedures, so that leading of men and women and getting things accomplished, accomplishing the mission. Running a business, like I said, I own a construction company. I've had it for my small business for 17 years, and that's just what you do. You lead people, you problem solve, you have to think of critical thinking ways to solve problems, and I bring all of those to the table. My time as a law enforcement officer, that's all I had to do was figure out problems and give the best solution possible, whatever means that was.
Amber Thompson, to borrow from our unofficial state nickname, can you show me an example from your achievements and experiences that have prepared you to lead our state from Jefferson City?
Well, I don't have a military background, but I think it actually works in my favor. At this time of life, we have had a complete military medical takeover with COVID lockdowns, business lockdowns. I do respect our military very heavily. I have a family. My dad was a law enforcement officer of an extent. He was a park ranger with the U.S. Federal, and I've got several family members that work with the VA. I personally have worked with rehabilitation in the medical field and worked in almost every single aspect and environment of what could occur of medical abuse. And it's extremely important that you have a person in office of the state that can actually limit the amount of abuse that these people take on you. Medicare fraud has to come to an end. I'm the only candidate with medical experience and knowledge that sees eye to eye with the other victims.
Ours is a large and diverse state with a mix of both urban and rural communities, agriculture and industry, aerospace. How will you look out for the Missourians if you're elected to the highest state in the office, or the highest office in the state, I'm sorry? Amber?
Okay. Again, I feel like the military overreach has been too strong. I even talked to victims. I have personal friends, and I try to have my own personal time spent with victims of PTSD who are veterans who are willing to commit suicide because the culture needs to change. And I believe Missouri can be a strong force and create a new cultural change towards making our American soil softer. When I was trying to run for other offices, I was trying to put my signs in the ground. It was too hard of a ground. I said, the hearts are getting too hard. We have to soften our hearts, step back, and realize that we cannot commit idolatry. The Bible says, thou shalt not commit idolatry, and that those idols they put above people, medical doctor idolatry, etc., is what's causing this abuse in our country. And I believe that even NASA needs to be limited in the amount of money that is spent. There's so many people that are homeless, and I'd like to, again, derail inflation. That's one of my main causes that I'm running for office, and ending this Medicare abuse.
Chris Wright. Ours is a large and diverse state with a mix of both urban and rural communities and industries that range from agriculture to aerospace. How will you look out for all Missourians if you're elected to the state's highest office?
Well, if you look at my platform, it does cover all Missourians with the crime and the utility rates. And I'll go into the agriculture. One of the things that very much concerns me is you look at our farming community. Nobody wants to go into the farming. There's not that new generation, or there's very little. And the ones that do, it's so expensive to get started into farming. And we've got to do something as a state, whether it be through grants, programs, whatever, to get these farmers, to get the new generation of farmers back into farming, because agriculture is Missouri's #1 industry. And the second one, real quick, on these utility companies, I don't mean to go after them, but these wind farms and these solar panels are complete garbage and complete junk. And the fact that the federal government continues to push it down our throats, it's not good for our environment, and it just simply doesn't work.
Thank you.
Question number 3, and we'll start again with Chris Wright. Many large corporations, organizations, and prominent individuals have announced they are moving from blue states to business-friendly red states. If elected, what will you do as governor to ensure Missouri is a business-friendly state?
For all Missourians, I'm going to make sure they pay their fair share of taxes instead of trying to skirt around and not paying taxes. Whenever you have these big companies coming in wanting tax incentives and tax breaks, that only helps them. Why aren't we giving these incentives to small businesses to get them going? Why is it always the big guy? Why can't it be the little guy? So for the big ones wanting to come in, I know they're going to bring jobs, but we spend so much of our tax money giving tax breaks on these organizations. are we really getting a return in our investment is what I have to question. And so I would have to really look and deep dive into the numbers to see if that's something I'm going to support or even have a chance at supporting. But at the end of the day, that's probably going to be a legislative matter.
Amber Thompson, many large corporations, organizations, and prominent individuals have announced they are moving from blue states to business-friendly red states. If elected, what will you do as governor to ensure Missouri is a business-friendly state?
Well, I was actually at the Capitol, and I personally listened to a real estate attorney, lobbyist, as the politicians screamed, "There's no way we're going to allow anybody to do that. Where's my real estate lobbyist?" She started screaming because they were there's another politician trying to allow businesses to happen and occur within the home. Okay, so one thing I would allow people to become millionaires again. To be honest with you, there's so many issues. When you look at even the lottery, you can split up that lottery. It's intentional greed. The whole entire system established and set up for greed. I would split up the lottery where there'd be 500 millionaires instead of one. I would not allow gubernatorial overreach to exceed where it's gone, where they shut down businesses. And you have to encourage that. I know millionaires myself that were made out of selling things out of the back of their car. You have to, again, decriminalize the ability to have real freedom, and that's a freedom to work your own land, to have your own businesses on your own land. I believe in a nearby community in Illinois, they had some man doing his own community business, they said, but they called it a community farm, garden, allowed to sell vegetables. It's gotten to ridiculosity when every time we take a chance to breathe, we get threatened with a cop to be arrested. There has to be what I call PRID, police reformation intervention, delineating emancipation. You're not a free country without that. Thank you.
Amber Thompson, we'll stay with you. The majority of candidates for governor have promised tax cuts. How can we cut taxes responsibly and still fund the functions of government?
Well, unlike the other candidates, probably, I've lived in almost, I don't know, I would say through the Southwest, every single Southwest state there is. And I've seen, again, this issue where people have been driven down. They're not allowed the freedoms they need to have. And again, with your situation, where you don't even know us as candidates, the ability to influence other people. I'm an extremely influential person. I may be small, people may hear my name, but when I get up there and speak, they do listen to me, okay? And with this unaffordability, we have to have the cost of living reduced. And I may sound like I'm derailing it back to what needs to be done, but there are people in the audience who are not able to afford their electric bill. They're not able to afford their food. And they're very concerned, like I am, there's going to be another COVID shutdown where the governor shows up with his NATO friends and dumps all your milk out. It actually happened on a farm in New York. You know, these are stories that people need to hear. If I become governess, the first female governess, make history with you, I can have a briefing every morning on the news that's going on. And I am the only person, I believe, who's humble enough and pushy enough to get the problem solved and to point out and expose the corruption, because I do know Medicaid has taken over homes in this state for too long.
Chris Wright, same question. Majority of candidates for governor have promised tax cuts. How can taxes be cut responsibly and still fund the functions of government?
This is going to sound sarcastic or maybe even snarky, but cutting taxes is not the role of the governor. So those that are making those promises can't keep those promises because that's a legislative matter. And it really irks me whenever I hear all these campaign promises and people eat it up like campaign candy. And the reality is that candidate doesn't have that power or authority. And I just really like truth and accountability, and I just try to get the truth out there. We have a lot of revenue that comes into the state. What the state has is a spending problem. We have got to stop spending so much into our budget. Originally taxes were designed for public safety, for schools, for infrastructure, and I'm okay with those. But there's also a lot of things that our government statewide is funding within the budget, and we got to stop spending so much money.
We'll let you go on with that topic there. The state budget has doubled in size in less than a decade, despite Republican supermajorities in both houses and Republicans holding all statewide offices. If elected governor, how will you approach the budget process?
Well, it's also important to remember that we got a lot of ARPA funding, a lot of federal funding. So that's where a lot of the spending is going on because we're getting all this money. But we've got to remember we're about to fall off a cliff when it comes to the revenue that we're bringing in. And quite simply, the governor has line item veto authority. So if people don't know the process, the governor and the legislature all work together to come up with this budget. You know, the governor's got his or her part. The legislature's going to add or subtract whatever they're going to. And then it goes back to the governor. With that line item veto authority, I'm going to use it. I'm not saying I'm going to cut everything and anything. It's just I'm going to be very proactive and really deep dive and work with the people within my staff on where the true wasteful spending is.
Amber Thompson, the state budget has doubled in size in less than a decade, despite Republican supermajorities in both houses and Republicans holding all statewide offices. If elected governor, how will you approach the budget process?
Well, back in the day, I ran in 2016 for U.S. House Rep, and then the last office that I had my eye on was Senator. And Eric Schmidt, every single day, I emailed him. Every single day, I emailed him. I thought I was probably risking myself to be criminally arrested for drawing attention to my case, but I was trying to get a lawsuit. To say a lot of these politicians are attorneys, okay? They have a budget. The reason I went for the senator position, I wrote a song about it, Cowgirls for Congress. You can look that up. You're trying to, again, create cultural influence and plant seeds of forgiveness and respect for all people. That money that he gets, $60 million plus, Claire McCaskill wrote to me a letter, she gives to stealing children, the genocide of child thieving. That money does not need to be put stealing children. That money needs to be placed in where it needs to be to help the people overall. And instead they select their friends, group of friends. It's basically a just us and our friends group instead of justice. We've got to do something to change it. The foster care system needs reformed. Surrogate mothers should be paid victim compensation for them womb raping their bodies. They did steal 2 of my children, by the way, illegally. And they will use the psych industry to abuse us. And there's another woman, Dr. Lisa Thomas, who's running in your area.
Time.
We hope she gets to help us reform the psych industry against abuse. Sorry.
And we'll be right back. We'll be right. Oh, I'm sorry. Closing. Almost did it again. 2 minutes. Closing statement. We'll start with you, Chris Wright.
So here's the deal. As you can tell, I'm not a politician. I don't belong to the political apparatus, but I'm a very successful businessman, and I've had a very stellar military career. Go look at my Missouri Ethics Commission report. I'm mostly self-funding this, so you'll see I owe 0 favors to anybody, and that's what's important. We always complain about politicians being tied to dark money. The other thing that I don't quite understand why we keep doing, we keep re-electing politicians or promoting politicians who aren't even doing their job in the first place. So I encourage you, look outside the box. I have traveled the state. I've been in every single county now. We are all tired of the same thing. We are tired of the same old in government. We're tired of politicians. And when I say politicians, the bad politicians, because there are good politicians. We're tired of the same nonsense. Look at me. I know my opponents have raised millions of dollars, but the difference between me and them is I didn't raise millions of dollars just so I could spend it on 30-second mudslinging commercials 30 days out from a primary. Look at my background. I care. I have served the public my entire adult life. We all complain about what we have, yet we never do anything about it. How do we fix that? You vote for Chris Wright for governor August 6th. Thank you.
Thank you. Amber Thompson, 2-minute closing.
Okay, if I can squeeze it all in. August 6th, you have to get people to vote for me. And the reason I asked you to do that, I say raise a fist August 6th, or grant your wish and vote for the first female governess of Missouri. We're behind the times, as Chris was mentioning too. If we keep following the pathway of the man who has the most dollars and is given the most money, because that is the establishment. That's who you identify the person not to vote for, if you ask me. Unless you absolutely know that person front to back. Every single politician that's running for governor, excluding you, and in my opinion, worries me. There's a form of overreach that may occur, and they will continually leave your voice hidden and your true needs completely buried underneath their medical money and completed the Medicare candy fraud. I started Right to Mom. I'm trying to push for women's rights, women's suffragists, above right to vote, which basically women's rights ended in a graveyard with a tombstone that reads right to vote. Folks, it's time now. Vote for me because I'm the humblest person who's going to use expertise. I want to even help Chris Wright to help us to have a police reformation program where we have a badge that has a point system attached to it, a merit system. We have to have to where they cannot cruelly and usually punish us and throw us to the curb and detain us even, because it can cause even death in the back of a car. There's too many people who are being killed and not intentionally. So I believe in hands off, don't touch. That's my new policy. I'm not into marker chipping, flesh demarcation of your flesh. I've written laws, and I've sent it to all 50 states, to the governor's offices, to the other politicians, to try to get them to face reality. I'm a very strong Christian, pro-life, but I'm pro-life plus. I do believe that it's time to go beyond, as he said, the normalcy, the insanity of doing everything the same way we used to do it, and put the real issues on the plate. Thank you so much, and I do appreciate your vote. Amber Thompson, let's make history. August 6th. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll be right back with the candidates running for State Representative, District 123.